Welcome to Steel Curtain Productions. And again, we have another sort of, what would you call, extra video we have to do as we knew we were going to have to. So, first, please hit the likes and subscribe down in the right hand corner. Muchly appreciated. Trying to grow the channel here. And yeah, we're delving into our Pittsburgh Steelers. We knew on Friday after the big, horrendous bomb drop that Kenny Pickett was gone, that we knew there was going to be a response. It happened yesterday fairly quickly. So you lose Pickett Friday and you get Fields in Saturday. Um, again, I remember, this is the funny part of this whole thing. These were, you look at the situation here, and isn't it funny how it ends up being the main two guys Pittsburgh was looking at? You got Russell Wilson and Fields. They were, and I, of course, gave the edge to wanting Russell. But with the disaster that happened Friday with Pickett, and God knows what happened behind the scenes, but it had to be pretty drastic for them to ship him out and ship him out for, not that high of a price. Third round pick, I believe it was. However, they did better than what the Bears did. We pulled off some smooth work with, I believe it was a sixth round pick for Fields, because that gives them the option to unload that contract, and the Bears want to go ahead with that, where they have the number one pick to get the top quarterback. So that seems to be their plan. So that's the good news, is we weather the storm. However, it's a great project. I think this works out. Again, we're going to know farther ahead or behind. Fields' numbers weren't great. Kenny Pickett wasn't where he was supposed to be either. So are we any further ahead? Maybe we're in the same area. Other than, I say, one good positive in this is he seems to have a better. He seems to be better with the running game, athletic wise, in that regard, and that might work to with the new offensive coordinator and the two new offensive coaches to our advantage. Kind of to have some athleticism and kind of give you that running option, which it's nice to have a quarterback that is mobile. So that might be a help. The only problem with, and that's why I had my issues with Fields in the beginning, is this attitude, prima donna attitude, which we just unloaded on a wide receiver. Although there's maybe Pickett had it too. Hard to say. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, so it makes you wonder for this to have happened. Maybe he's just quieter about it. However, anyway, that's going to be the thing, because we do know that Fields had blowouts with coaches calling coaches out, and you can't do that. And teammates, more so the coaches. So that's going to be, it's going to be a work in progress. Basically, it'll be a project. Kenny Pickett was a project. So it leaves you in the same kind of area where Pickett didn't hit his full potential, and that may have been due to the disastrous coordinating we had. Now, hopefully, like I say, I got my concerns with this new coordinator system. Although I also say can't be much worse than Matt Canada. So, in saying that, and plus, maybe at being an offensive coordinator for Smith, maybe that's a better role for me. He had more success with than head coaching. So this could work into being a good thing, and I think it's good in some senses. They just got to get his attitude in check. If they can get Fields' attitude in check, this could be a big positive for the future. And I think he's got, like I said, I've said this about Russell Wilson all along. As long as he focuses on the football field, I didn't realize, he's 35 years old, so he's not going to be the turn two guy in the end for that long. So he can lead the way for now, and it'll be a good mentor for Fields, which I think is what it would have been for Pickett had he have not had the chip on his shoulder, from what it sounds like. Now, we also had big signings earlier in the off season too. That's why I put the pics on the front cover page of Queen and Elliott. And there seemed to be a lot of pump up with these two guys. So I'm assuming, with Elliott being a safety and Queen linebacker, that this, I'm hoping, I'm going to delve into it a little deeper in a future video on those two, because I want to see, did we actually improve those positions and not just go for anybody? That's always my concern. Sometimes we replace guys with either weaker guys that are not as good as the guys that they've unloaded, or we settle for just an average player. That's so I will dwell more into Elliott's history and Queen's history. Like I say, the way I see the tires pumped, it sounds like it's an improvement. So we will hope that it is, because like I say, one thing I do say, Patrick Peterson. If you're unloading Patrick Peterson, you better have somebody. So that makes me think that this Elliott, Deshaun Elliott, must be half decent. So with that being said, this is a huge move. Calms the storm of the catastrophe. We still need a third quarterback. And for me, the availability of Dobbs, who we used to have, being out there, I think he's the perfect candidate to be the third quarterback. And we may get a surprise here. He could, because Dobbs always had a potential there. I think it's just that we gave up on him too soon. In my opinion, he's got some athleticism to himself, got a good arm, and he's intelligent. So for me, I think we're still not out of the woods in the quarterback era. We still need to get a third guy in there, and I think Dobbs would be. You're either looking at Dobbs, or I don't know if anybody has signed Rudolph, but if he's available, that would be my second next choice, just to have him as the backup, the third. But I would prefer Dobbs, to be honest, because I remember when he was with us, I seen signs of that kid. He's got some potential. So he could. You never know. Now that we are getting an offensive line, that's really all you wanted, because he was mobile as well. So with that, and that he's not a kid. He's actually, I guess you would classify him as a veteran now. He's got some years behind him. So with that being said, I think that would be a good 1, 2, 3 punch. I think we got to go complete it. We're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, because yes, we got rid of some poison. Now it's odd. We got rid of Dante Johnson, who was poisonous. We bring in Fields, who has the same issue. Can we correct it? And we don't have a great history since the days of Coward, of having that great track record with rejuvenating players. So this is going to be a real true test, because Mike Tomlin's got to get the house in order. The ship has got to get in order, because he doesn't have a great track record. I'm sorry to say that. You look at the team we had back when Rosenberger was there, and we had Antonio Brown and a lot of talented players. There's no doubt we missed out at least on 2 Super Bowls extra we should have had with that group. But it also reared up as we seen time go along, that it's evident Brown was a prima donna, and so he was probably a prima donna before the big blowout came about. So that would have given you a year or two. You can't have poison like that in the locker room. Culture is huge, and I love Mike Tomlin, but I've always had this, since I've seen this continual thing. We always seem to have a prima donna. It's been Brown. It's been Le'Veon Bell. It's been, who else was there? Even Schuster seemed to have a bit of an issue. Claypool. I mean, there always seems to be somebody. Then Dante Johnson, and it's even looking like Pickett could very well be in that group as well. For them to unload him like that, there's got to be a problem with the attitude. There has to be. There's got to be prima donna mode That's just my mind concept. But I'm going to tell you something. If Con wants to build this team, you're either going to have a big blowout here if you don't correct. You got to get that number one wide receiver, or it doesn't matter what quarterback you're going to have there. They can't succeed without weapons to throw the ball to. Yeah, I don't care who you are. That's why Ben struggled. You didn't have the receivers, and I mean, yes, he might have had an elbow injury. He still was our best weapons in our quarterback field out of the last few we've had so far. There hasn't been anybody match him yet. We're hoping it will come to that. But that's because and for him it was even worse because they didn't have the line yet. The offensive line was garbage. But now, at least the last 2 years, we seem to be getting that line fixed, and we got to continue on with it this year with getting a center. That's or somebody on that line. You got to continue with the offensive line because it needs that. Just getting one guy is not enough, in the drafting. So I think you got to stick to the program, but don't tell me there's not upgrades in free agency, and you can still draft in your second or third rounds. You can even draft for a quarterback as well in one of those rounds to continue having somebody to back up Fields if he works out, right? Or if he doesn't, you got somebody else to turn to for the future because Russell Wilson's going to be a short-term thing. Retirement will be coming on his page in the near future, so you got to jump on getting this corrected quickly. But if you want success and you want to compete, because the Ravens are going to be hard to match after they went out and got Derrick Henry. That's going to be a nightmare. That team is well coached. They draft well. It's an organization that took a page out of the old Steelers system, and we got to get back to that. We got to get back to the way Cowher built this team, at least to that point. And just to we got to be stronger in the locker room. We got to scout better. We've got to pick up talent better, and we can't try to shortchange ourselves and just accept a player for a position. This is your opportunity. You got rid of a prima donna at wide receiver that was nowhere near close to a number one. Go out there and get yourself the number one because you had a number three in that slot, and that was a joke. And you get a guy that's not a coward. I'm sorry to say it. I don't care who wants to argue with me. Don't give me the crap. I've seen plenty of players when I've coached. That man feared getting hit, Dante Johnson. And I don't like players like that. That just doesn't wash for me. You give me a Hines Ward any day of the week. That's what you want. Grit, toughness. I'm sorry to say, but that's what you want. Period. End of discussion. Right? You don't need someone who's, you're in the wrong game, man, if you're afraid to get hit. Get out of football. So for us, wake up call. Get to the thing. Santonio Holmes, another guy. You need somebody of that caliber. Give me a Ward. Give me a Santonio Holmes. But it's time for the Steelers to stop going, oh, well, we can put in anybody in it again. I mean, come on. You did nothing after you lost Antonio Brown. And Schuster was a joke to fill in for that role. There was a number two trying to put him in a number one. That was bad enough. Then you get rid of him, and then what? A number three is going to run into number one? Come on, guys. Wake up. So we're not out of the woods. It's a great move. You got nothing to lose because I'm going to check that out too, but I believe Fields and Pickett were from the same year in the draft. So if that's being the case, either way in their careers, you're no farther ahead or behind. It's a project to see if they can adjust. I mean, he didn't do too great in Chicago, but I get and that's why I need to see because I don't like the way Chicago. What it shows how they draft for quarterbacks. It just doesn't seem to look good. Now, I mean, it didn't work with Trubinsky. That showed you that he wasn't a great quarterback to draft. Is it the same thing with Fields? We don't know. And I tell you, if he doesn't turn out, then Chicago has a problem drafting quarterbacks. That just shows you their scouting of quarterbacks is not a good thing. So you'll know. But either way you look at it, I liked Pickett. But I mean, seeing this blowout, that makes me have big. Oh, mind you, he was no Ben Roethlisberger, and definitely no Terry Bradshaw. So that I knew. I wanted a bigger quarterback. That's just me. I think you need some size. For that, size and speed go well, with a good arm go well together in today's brand of football. Um, I don't know enough. Like I say, Fields' numbers aren't outstanding, but playing with a veteran like Russell Wilson, and if they get his character in check, he could turn out to be quite a blessing. Because I have seen this guy run with the ball, and he can run the ball. So it's really going to be a matter of, I guess it's, can you redevelop and control the ego? That goes far beyond just quarterback. That goes far beyond wide receiver. This is a coaching issue. And this comes down to Mike Tomlin bringing his ship in. And this comes down to Khan having the discussion with Tomlin and saying, you know what? We have figured out where the problem has been. We've had prima donnas. This is the one area you got great numbers and a great coach. You're a great coach. Players are going to want to play for you, but you don't have your ship in. You don't keep a tight ship. So we end up with prima donnas who run the show. And you can't have that because it destroys the culture. And you could tell Pittsburgh's culture is not the same. I'm sorry, I love my steel curtain team. They're not that's for sure. But their defense seems to always be what pulls them through of late. But even that's weakened. So hopefully these pickups with Queen and Elliott are an improvement for that area. It sounds like they are. I'm gonna, like I told you, I'm gonna um, dive into that a little deeper in a future video once I research these two a little more. Because I really tend to focus on my Steelers, and I'm not much for focusing on unless you stand up like a Patrick Mahomes or something, or a Josh Allen. I don't, or Watson. I don't tend to focus heavily on the opposition's players or Derrick Henry. I mean, that's just a shoe in. Like I say, Ravens are going to be tough, and we know the Browns are going to be right there. They can answer the bell too. I think they have been underachieved for the talent they have, and once they clue in to that depth of the talent they have, we're going to have a dogfight there. And like I said, the Bengals are no slouches either. So this AFC is tough. And then you got to deal with the Chiefs and the other, and they're still in our AFC. And then you got the Bills. We got to wake up, and you got the Dolphins waking up. You got the Chargers coming on. You got the Jaguars coming on. There's a lot of teams coming. Even the Texans. Well, look at last year. Who would have thought that team just came out of nowhere? So it's a major wake up call if the Steelers want to be in that parade of that group to have an opportunity for playoffs and another shot at the Super Bowl. Then things have to change culturally, and that means, yeah, Mike Tomlin's a great coach. I've said that, but he's terrible for running a tight ship. It's great to be a nice guy. That's wonderful, but nice guys don't win championships that easily. Now I know, you got two Super Bowls there, although I think you only got one and Cowher got the other. That's not enough. Like I say, for the period of that time when they were on top there with the Patriots, there's no reason that team shouldn't have come out with 2 to 4 more Super Bowls in that era, and we wasted it. That told me, and then we ended up finding out what was wrong. We knew something was wrong behind the scenes, and that was Antonio Brown's. These prima donnas, we started rearing up their heads, and it started showing. So that tells you your coach does not have the ship in. Can't run a team that way, and it's an unfortunate thing because it's happening in. Like I said, that's why my tape is a little late. I also do a podcast in hockey, and I'm involved in that deeply, and then I have another podcast. So I was doing a lot of taping in the other ones, and it's when I got the news last night seeing we had made the trade for Fields. Now I'm very tickled pink that we didn't pay a fortune for him. I think we kind of mopped up there, so it's not a. If it goes bad, it's not that big of a loss. So we didn't overpay for him. That's amazing. I gotta say that was a good piece of work by Con. I gotta say, and especially in this situation. But the work's not over. You got to get your third uh, quarterback and kid yourself not. You got to think, look back to your players and look at what they've done. And you look back at Dobbs. That was a good quarterback. We didn't have an offensive line, and why we unloaded him was beyond me. I never did understand. I seen a lot of potential. Now that you got a line and you got a running game, and he's mobile himself, man, that'd be 1, 2, 3 guys. Those 3 guys, what a combination that could be. If Fields turns out, that could be a wicked trio. That could be something that you'd be blown away with. But you got to give them weapons too. So that means you go out and get a Marquise Brown type player. Those type of players, they're out there. But you can't sit there and sit back, and you just accept guys like at the Johnson level, and you don't want prima donnas. And like I say, Con has to have that conversation with Tomlin that, hey, it's due time. You haven't had this ship in order, and we've lost out on a lot of Super Bowls because of it. You're a great coach, great numbers, but now we need uh, accountability to be there. We want the culture right here. Let's get our new coaching crew, everybody on board. Great to have guys like Mika Fitzpatrick standing up and trying to show leadership, because that was good character by him calling out Dante. I'm proud of him because those are the guys that matter. Now, if we can help guys like that get that room in order, that's what we need to do. Give them the assistance and be a coach. That is what's wrong with today. It's not just in football. It's in hockey. It's almost like you don't need a coach anymore because nobody can do that. No one's allowed to coach. That's got to change in the sport. That's got to change in the sport. There's no ands and buts. This new era of pussyfooting around players and they're calling the shot. Well, damn, if that's the way it's going to be, why hire a coach? Because you might as well just let the players call the shots and run their own thing the way it's going. So to me, that goes Goodell, that goes Bettman, like guys like that run these leagues. It's got to change. They got to start putting some type of implement implementation in place that changes it and says, okay, the days of prima donnas running the show, it's over. You now, and make it a policy. You either follow your coach's direction because you're not running the show anymore. You put a policy. This is what it takes to play in professional sports. You will follow the direction of your coaches. And if you can't, then you got to get stiff enough that you see a prima donna. You put a policy in that you actually eliminate them from playing pro sports. Execute it. You got the bad attitude? Well, if you don't cheese up and act like a professional who's supposed to be an example to kids, well, then you lose your opportunity to play the game. How's that for apples? You got to get these right men in power to run these sports properly if you want a successful sport. But anyway, we're just talking about our team, the Steelers. It's time for Con to have that sit down and say, accountability is time now. Culture changes in this room. We get it back to the Steeler way. So thank you for joining me. We will, like I said, this was a special one. We knew this one was coming because of the catastrophe with Pickett gone Friday. So thank you for joining me. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think about the whole thing and what's going on with Steelers Nation. How you feel about Fields coming in and the 1-2 punch of Fields and Russell Wilson. And who do you think should be the third guy? Tell me your thoughts. Be interested in hearing. Just be respectful when you come to the channel, or trust me, you won't be in the comments section if you aren't. Okay? So we're all adults, mature, and we all are entitled to opinions. Thank you for watching us. Please hit the likes and subscribes. God bless you. We will catch you in the next episode, and there will be more because I have to delve into the new pickups that we've made through the off season. I have to look at it closer. Like I promised, I said I'll go back here and see how the Steelers look in the moves they've made. All right. God bless. Go Steelers, go.